Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Victorian Cowboy here, and let's talk once again about Game of Thrones, Season 6, Episode 7, The Broken Man. And, as always, spoiler warning, if you don't want to know what happened, turn it off now. So, we're going to jump right in. So, this is one of the few episodes of Game of Thrones, if not, well, it may even be the first episode of Game of Thrones that has a cold opener. Well, it's revealed that the Hound, Sandor Clegane, is not actually dead, as many people suspected. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is if you don't see him die on screen, and you don't get the knowledge from a reliable source, it's safe to assume that that person's probably not dead yet. So, we can assume Stannis is dead because Brienne admitted to killing him. And Brienne is a more reliable source. She has no reason to spare his life, and she has no reason to lie about it or anything like that. So it's safe to say he's dead. The Hound, though, Arya didn't kill. She wanted him to suffer. And as the Septum states, the Septum is played by Ian McShane. He thought the Hound was dead when he found him, was going to dig him a grave until he coughed. The Septum was a great character. I really enjoyed that little story arc, and it's sad that he didn't get to stick around longer, because he seemed more of a voice of reason in a world ruled by chaos, and very philosophical. I felt this episode had a lot more of the philosophical bent to it than some of the other episodes, and I feel like the Septum plays like the opposite side of religion to the High Sparrow. So, while the High Sparrow is extremely forceful in his religion and, comes across as extremely devout, you've got the Septum, played by Ian McShane, who is very philosophical and, in truth, is an agnostic. I thought it was very cool how, in this land where all these people are going to war and worshipping different gods, he sits there and goes, yeah, I don't know which one is real. I don't know if I'm worshipping the right one, if it's the Seven, if it's the Lord of Light, if it's the old gods, if it's a many-faced god, if they're all just the same god. But he wants to believe in something, and he believes in the goodness of people, and that people need to have something to help them understand that their good is, well, good. Also, I felt he had probably the best line of the series so far, in the sense that violence is a disease, and you don't cure a disease by spreading it. And I think that's especially true. And looking at what's going to happen coming up, both in this season and in next season, with the Night King, all these petty squabbles and people going to war with each other, because we get Jaime and Bronn going after the Blackfish, if they knew what threat was coming, you know damn well they'd unify together to hold off the White Walkers. But violence has become so commonplace and second nature to these characters that they don't see anything beyond what is currently in their world, and what they know through personal experience. And by the end of the episode, it's revealed that, even though Sandor Clegane the Hound was learning that there may be more to life than just fighting, I feel like the Septum's words never got a chance to take hold, because the episode ends with the bandits, or the Brothers Without Banners. It's unclear still who necessarily those riders were, because you assume that if the Brothers Without Banners are fighting for the people, they wouldn't necessarily be bandit-like, but at the same time it feels like that's something they were leaning towards, especially with them worshipping the Lord of Light and talking about how the night is dark and full of terrors. Plus the colours and what they were wearing lend credence to the fact that they may be from the Brothers Without Banners. And Sandor already has a problem with them. And so with the episode ending with him grabbing that axe and going out to get revenge, you know that the thing that keeps driving him is that hatred. Though I think he's a little more human now. And while he still has that hatred, I do think some of what the Septum told him is going to stick. Now, we also see that Margaery, skipping back over to King's Landing now, Margaery Tyrell actually has the long con going on. That's why she encourages her grandmother to leave when her grandmother won't convert. And that's why that little image of the rose. This is going to be the long con to try and get the High Sparrow and the Faith Militant, because they can't do it the violent way, because that'll get the people against them. But if she can expose corruption or force their hand somehow from the inside, she's going to have a one-up. So I'm curious to see how she's going to try and manipulate them, and if they realize that she is really just manipulating them. Because the High Sparrow is not an idiot. And he's got people watching Margaery at all times. Like we see that with the gal who had tortured Margaery in prison. So I'm really interested in seeing what her endgame is. Because it's going to have to be to save her brother and destroy the High Sparrow's reign. She's not going to take that lying down. But how she's going to do it, because if she's just being pious, it's not going to really draw them out. Though this episode was full of sassy old people. So you've got the sassy grandma, because later on Grandma Tyrell, in her exchange with Cersei, is very blunt but very sassy and kind of venomous, but in what I found a humorous way towards Cersei. And Cersei's beginning to realize just how badly she's been outplayed currently, because I don't see her before feeling this out of place, and she has all her faith in the Mountain Robert Strong, because Jaime's gone to Riverrun, so she's now in a very vulnerable position, because she's lost her allies, and even those minor alliances she's tried to forge with people just as a means to an end, they're not fleshing out super well for her. Now, we also get a lot of Jon Snow in this episode, and he's trying to convince people to join him in his war. So he manages to finally convince the 2,000 reluctant wildlings to join him with the help of Tormund. Tormund is a really fun character who I really enjoy, and he's honest, which I think is really cool. And he does have respect for Jon, which is something not a lot of the other characters have shown, but I feel is real. And they do a good job of showing that respect, even if there is a little bit of a "damn kid, you're naive" look going on there. But Tormund is the best relation he has to try. He's essentially the ambassador to the wildlings. And of course, they've got the Giant, and the Giant is just so much fun to watch move around on the show. He's just such a fun character, in my opinion, and I can't wait to see the battle for Winterfell again, because I'm hoping we see that Giant smash some heads in. Though unfortunately I don't think he's going to last super long south of the Wall. Though he might survive several battles and actually be in that last one against the White Walkers, which would be interesting. Though I'm curious to see if the White Walkers actually got any giants turned into whites for them. And then also with Jon, I think going and seeing Bear Island, not only is Bear Island this awesome fortress, but Lady Mormont, Lyanna Mormont, was just super powerful, and I really enjoyed the exchange between Sir Davos and Lady Mormont, because you can see how much Davos has respect for her, and how protective, even in asking her for her men, he really becomes. And I think it's because she reminds him of Shireen, and in my opinion, Sir Davos is kind of that grandfather everybody should want, because he really genuinely cares, and he's really wise, and he knows how to connect with people, and he knows how to relate to people and let them know, look, I know what you're going through, or look, I can understand what's happening here, and I can understand what you're dealing with, but let me convince you otherwise. Not through he doesn't even use fear tactics necessarily, even though he brings up the White Walkers. He's bringing it up honestly, saying, look, here's the problem, here's why we need your help to fix it. And I feel like he's the best asset Jon has right now. Of course, I'll be honest, I've been a fanboy of Sir Davos since the beginning. I think he's just a genuine character that shows some admirable qualities, admirable traits that I really feel for. But I also really like everyone in the Mormont family we've been introduced to, because I also really like Ser Jorah and Sir David up at the Wall, who got mutinied against, unfortunately. So, and Sir Davos also brings up the fact that, yeah, they've got the war with the dead coming up, and so let's just put these living down quickly so we can actually unify ourselves and fight them off when they come. And then we also see Jaime, and Bronn's back. I like Bronn. Bronn is another one of my favorite characters, just because he's sarcastic and he's witty and he's a fun character. And he's there with Jaime because Jaime's promising him a lordship now. So he keeps moving on up the social ladder through doing favors for the Lannisters. And he ends up going in there and pointing out everything that the Freys are doing wrong. And essentially Jaime comes in and says, yeah, the king told me to be here, so you guys bugger off. Because they were making a shit show of that whole siege. And the Blackfish calls the Freys bluff as Jaime's just getting there. And it was great to see the Blackfish come out and parley with Jaime and really just put Jaime in his place, because sometimes Jaime, being a Lannister and being this renowned hero, gets a little full of himself. And while I like Jaime, I feel like the Blackfish, being the sassy old person that he is, this was the episode with all the sassy old people, really just takes him down a couple of pegs. And so, if we see the siege of Riverrun this season, I think that'll be an interesting episode as well. But what I think will happen is, if they can take back Winterfell, if Jon can take back Winterfell, they'd send the next army down to help out the Blackfish, who, if he's to be believed, has 2 years worth of provisions, so they can last out the siege. Because Jaime doesn't want to stay there for 2 years. 2 years is way too long to keep 8,000 men just there in siege mode. It just won't work. You'll have men mutiny, get tired, get lazy, and then all of a sudden in the night the Blackfish opens the gates, they come out, they slaughter everybody while they sleep, and it's curtains. So so that was fun to see the Blackfish back in action and see just how much of a grizzled old man he is. Now then, next thing that happens is Theon. So we see Theon and Yara, and Yara's trying to get Theon to go back to his roots and not be an asshole, but remember that he's Ironborn. And so get him to become that warrior and that leader and that not necessarily cocky, but confident person she needs him to be. Though I do like the fact that Yara is a very strong female lead for that army. I think Theon would make a great second for her. And I really think that he's going to step back up by the end with encouragement and do some good. Which, he's kind of on that redemption arc, but right now he's still wallowing in self-pity and the fact that they're in a whorehouse and he can't really utilize any of them. He doesn't get pleasure from that anymore. So, then we get to Arya's storyline. And Arya tries to book passage back to Westeros and then gets stabbed by the Waif. But the Waif doesn't do a very good job for a faceless man. Like, thinking about it, you'd want the faceless man to do the job, end it, make sure they've got a confirmed kill, and call it good. But she doesn't. She slashes Arya across the gut and then stabs her twice. And at one point twists it in there before Arya headbutts her and takes a swan dive off the bridge. So we catch up with Arya staggering through the market after dragging herself from the water. So not only is she cold from the water, but she's losing a lot of blood from a couple of rather serious stab wounds to the gut. And by walking through the market, personally I think she might be seeking out the acting troupe, because that's the person she's got a good relationship with now. She doesn't really know anyone else besides the Faceless Men in Braavos. So seeing the market and just seeing that area, it really reminds me of where she went to see the play. And so I think she might go seek out that actress, because that actress would be able to help her. Though there is speculation that it'll be like a red woman, not the red woman, but a priestess of the Lord of Light that'll help her. Or, the fact that she might be turned into Lady Stoneheart's character and take that place, which I really hope they don't. They've already resurrected enough people from the dead, or people who we thought were dead. They've done reveals. So it would just feel like lazy writing to just do that again. I feel like we need to move beyond the fact that, well, this is a world where we can bring people back to life and really just have somebody just happen to survive. And as I've heard some people saying, she really does have fairly thick plot armor. And she wouldn't go out in such a, anticlimactic way. Because that was really lackluster. And to have her escape like that, unless they wanted to go and die in someone's arms or die in the street alone, I feel like there's more to her story. Not just this season, but next season. Plus, I'd like to see her get some revenge on the Faceless Men, or at least wreak some chaos on them, because the Faceless Men technically are a chaotic group themselves. So I think there's much more to that storyline that needs to flesh out. But I do personally think she should go see the actress who might be able to help her. That would be the way I'd guide the story, because that's the only place I could think of her actually going. So there's a. And the other thing that happens is Sansa sends a raven to someone, and there are two people in my mind that they might send a raven to. The first is her cousin, who's the ruler of the Vale, to try and get the Vale Knights to come help. And she might send it to him because she trusts him more than Peter Baelish. But Peter Baelish is the other one because she recognizes they don't have enough men or siege equipment to really take a castle, especially like Winterfell. But I feel like sending a letter to Peter Baelish is risky because you don't know if he can be trusted. Either way, I do think Jon could use more help, but I think they need to be smart about where they get it from. Because it's understandable that a lot of the houses wouldn't come and help them, even if it's just out of fear of the Boltons, or out of the fact that they just don't trust Jon because he's not technically a Stark, just in name. So that'll have some repercussions, either good or bad. I'd hate to see them get flanked during the battle for Winterfell by the army of like the Vale or Peter Baelish and lose out because of it. But it would be a fitting way for them to win that battle if that help does come. And we've got 3 episodes left this season, one of which is going to be the Battle of the Bastards. Another one is entitled No One, so we'll actually get to figure out, we'll get some hopefully closure on Arya's storyline there with the Faceless Men and No One. Battle of the Bastards is going to just be Jon versus Ramsay. I think that one's pretty clear. And then there's a lot of speculation for Clegane Bowl, which would be interesting if we do see the trial by combat for Cersei. But I don't think the High Sparrow or whoever's suing her would necessarily have Sandor Clegane in that fight. Versus the Mountain. Though we do know that confrontation is going to happen, because that thing is getting hyped to no end, and even if it would just be fan service, we all want to see that fight, because you've got the Hound who's vicious and tenacious in fighting, and then you've got the Mountain who's just a brute of a man. So we'll have to see how that goes. But those are just some of the ideas, some of the thoughts, some of the things that have happened, and where it might be heading. So we do hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, give us a like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought. Let us know if you have any other ideas or any other thoughts on where this might be leading. And just comment on the video. Let us know, because I'd love to hear what you guys think. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, have a good one.